before I get into what I would like to speak or discuss with you today, just what Travis was saying before lunch. Just think forward to a point where perhaps in Europe you can't practice chiropractic. Imagine that's maybe 20 years away. Imagine what that would feel like when you had the opportunity to do something today and you didn't. Just think about that. So sometimes it's hard to take action now for a future that doesn't seem real, but believe me, coming from Australia, we should have built the college 20 years ago. And there's a saying that says, when's the best time to plant a tree? And the answer is 20 years ago. When's the next best time? Today. Today. So take action. Join IFCO. Donate to that foundation. Join the German Association. Take the action now before you have to do it. So yes, I've travelled a long way to be here. 24 hours. My first flight was 14 hours from Adelaide to Doha, 5-hour layover there, and then a 7-hour flight from Doha through to Frankfurt. And my God, it's been worth it. And I haven't had a chance to listen to many people today or meet everyone, but the connections I've made so far have absolutely made that worthwhile for me. So thank you so much to Travers and IFCO and the German Association for the opportunity. Hopefully you'll get something out what I have to say today. I want to talk to you about cultural wisdom and an intelligent universe. I haven't got facts for you. I haven't really got anything other than my own ideas. And if anything, I'd like to think this is a conversation we're having. I don't mind if you think what I'm saying isn't true. I don't mind that. In fact, I'm better for that, if that's the case. So let's engage and see where we go. To start, I want to tell you a story. I met up with my PA for a meeting. We met up at a cafe and I was a bit late and she was reading a book. Now she likes reading a lot. She'd read this book before. It's a book called Wuthering Heights. I'm sure most people have heard of that. It's by someone called Emily Bronte. I sat down with her and I said, what's your favourite quote from Wuthering Heights? And she said this. And I looked at her and I said, really? And she sort of looked at me and said, yeah, that's my favourite quote. I said, really? That's in Wuthering Heights? And she said, yeah, it's actually a very famous quote. It's a really important time in the story as well that this quote happens. And I said, there's no way Emily Bronte wrote that in Wuthering Heights. And she said, Patrick, what is it that you think that I said? See, because I heard this. And of course, it didn't make any sense. It did not make any sense to me. And this is the amazing thing about language, isn't it? And that's why I tell you the story, is that language and words are critical to who we are and to our culture. And you can see how easy it is to make that mistake, right? Like, it's very similar, our souls and this word. But they're completely different in their meaning. Completely different in their meaning. And so I also tell you this story because as I go, what I say here, I'm trying to say with the best intention, without any offence, perhaps with some humour. But I'd like to think that what I'm going to speak to you about, that we're going to converse about, might stretch us. It might get us thinking differently. So there's something about people. When more than one person come together, there is this amazing thing that happens. There's this dynamic that occurs. Culture arises from that interaction. And so when you have more than one person in a room, like we have right now, there is a culture that is inherent amongst those people. And culture is an amazing thing. It's more than just language. So culture is the rituals that we do. It's those unspoken expectations. It's fashion. So I'm still in skinny jeans. And McCracken, wherever he is, he's got a pair of pants on that can fit 4 legs. I miss that one. But culture, haircuts, food, all this stuff to do with culture. It's amazing how that comes out of a human. So imagine we've got like a human being here. To stand back and to look at them, you wouldn't expect just by looking at them that skinny jeans would be something that comes out of it. that foods will come out of that. Culture is amazing. And for instance, what is it that brings people together? You think about your own journey to be here today. What was it that drove you to be here? And there would be a specific thing as to why you came. And remarkable that IFCO and the German Association will put on an event like this. Remarkable. And that we would come from all over the world. Amazing. But we also come together when we want to celebrate, or when we want to grieve, or when we want to have fun, or when we work, or when we do whatever. There's something about people coming together which is amazing. And that culture then is inherent about that. But to get back to then this idea around language, to me language is the most fascinating part of it. Those little turns of phrase, those subtleties in language, the fact that within a culture's language sit its concepts. And in particular, there are the sayings that resonate within a culture, which carries the wisdom of a culture. So here are some examples, for instance, to give you an idea of what I mean. A man who uses force is afraid of reasoning. That's a Kenyan proverb. Fall 7 times, stand up 8. Japan. If you can't live longer, live deeper. Do good and throw it in the sea. Amazing. A spoon does not know the taste of soup, nor a learned fool the taste of wisdom. That's got to be my favourite. The most beautiful fig may contain a worm. A Zulu proverb. In love, there's always one who kisses and one who turns the cheek. I don't quite know what that means, but it's cool. Evil enters like a needle and spreads like an oak tree. Amazing, right? And you get the sense of what I mean? These proverbs, these aphorisms, there's wisdom here, isn't there? From my part of the world, the Kiwis have this as a saying. You have to say it in the Kiwi accent to make sense of it, but this is an important part of the All Blacks, the world's greatest rugby team, which I hear just trounced Australia this morning. Yep. This is one of their #1 cultural references. No dickheads. They don't let anyone who's no good in their team, despite how good they might be as a player. And unfortunately, Australians aren't all that clever, because that's all I could find for Australia. We're a young country in many ways. So the wisdom of a culture exists within its aphorisms. And chiropraktic is no different. So I'm interested, out there, who can yell out a chiropraktic saying, a chiropraktic aphorism?
The power that made the body heals the body.
The power that made the body heals the body. What's another one? Great. What else? Wonderful. Principle 6. Yep. You see the idea? Never know how far-reaching. All these sayings within our culture of chiropraktic. We have them there, right? Okay? And I think there may be another one we could add to that, which I really think speaks to who we are as chiropractors and how we see the world. But when we talk about cultural wisdom and chiropraktic, we don't use cultural wisdom, do we? What's the word that we use to describe this? It's a single word. Sorry? Philosophy. We talk about the philosophy of chiropraktic. And we have this beautiful philosophy about living things. But does our philosophy go further than living things? Like, it goes huge, doesn't it? Doesn't our philosophy speak of the universe? That's a pretty big philosophy. And we have some insight into that. So we have this as our major premise. Our major premise, meaning this is the assumption we make. This is the way that we will stack up all our reasoning, will be upon this one assumption. We say that the universe a universal intelligence, I should say, is in all matter. And it continually gives all of its properties and its actions. And things do not exist without it. That is our premise. But I think there is an easier way for us to understand what that even means. Because we can spend a lot of time talking about it, and I think this is where Travis and I have some differences on, particularly, where's my pointer?
Oh, pointer doesn't work.
Okay, all right. I have some problems with the word in, but that's another discussion, okay? But we can think of this in a very simple, a very pithy way. What this says is that we should assume intelligence in everything. So if you turn around and have a look at the person next to you, and just for a moment, just study them. Just study them. And I want you to do this thing called sonder, which means start to look at them and realise that their life is as rich, is as full, is as meaningful to them as yours is to you. And then everyone in this world, in this room, yes, in the world, in this room is the same. When you assume intelligence, then you assume intelligence in everything. It doesn't mean you sit back and you're passive to the world. Yes, you should absolutely take action. But when you assume intelligence, what does that mean for that person who you hate seeing in practice? You got to stop, sonder. Okay, I understand. Assume intelligence in that person. So I think as a saying, as an aphorism, then this is meaningful. And if we take this in our mind again, and we go back to this idea of culture, we go back to this idea of people, we can apply it in a way which is more meaningful. Because really, why is it that people come together? We can talk about these connections and things that we seem to make sense, but I think there's a stronger reason as to why that is. I think there's a universal reason as to why we come together. And it's bigger than what we would think. You see, the universe that we are in is vast. And not just in size, but in time. The planet we're on, 4.5 billion years old. 4.5 billion years old. The universe that it's in, 14 billion years old. And not only is it immense in its size and its time, but also in its smallness. Like, how small are we amongst that? How insignificant are we? How easy is it to get lost in something the size of the universe? And yet, think of this. Somehow, you and I find ourselves right here, right now, in this moment in the universe, in this place in the universe. And some people would say that that's just random chance. But what about if we assume intelligence about that fact? Then what does that mean for the fact that we are here right now? What does that mean? If we assume intelligence about the universe and things that happen within it, it sort of means that both our existence here is tied up with this, right? It's not just random that we're here. There may not be necessarily meaning, and we can talk about that too, but there must be something intelligent about it. The universe has this propensity for complexity. It seems to create things which are more and more complex. We have these really small things like quarks, which become more complex as small particles, which become atoms, which become molecules, which then form systems. Things arise out of that. We have planets, we have the universe. And as things become more complex and create more things, the complexity itself allows more complex things to happen. So this is a law within the universe. This is a law of complexity. And if we try and think about how to explain that in a simple way, and I think Lego is a nice, easy way for us to understand this idea of complexity. So if you think of a brick of Lego, it's got a certain structure, therefore it has a certain function, okay? It can do certain things, has certain properties and actions, right? That's the major premise. So when we look at a single block of Lego, you can see it's very simple. But because of the way it's structured, there are things that it can do and things it can't do. And if we imagine, say, 3 blocks of Lego, what are the sort of things that can come out of that? It has to behave in a certain way. It has a certain set of rules it has to follow. And so only certain things can happen as a result of it. But those things in themselves are quite remarkable. So those 3 sets of pieces of Lego can be arranged in a certain way. And now all of a sudden it's more complex than it was, isn't it? Still the same pieces, arranged in different sort of ways, but the complexity has just gone up. And when we look at this, I mean, what does your mind see when you look at these 3 different structures? Would you see like a T pattern there? Something that reminds you of the letter T? And maybe one of them reminds you of, I don't know, the Loch Ness Monster or a duck or something. So there's something about these things that starts to come out of the fact that they become more complex. So then, what do you see now? What do you see? A duck. The Lego now has become duckish, hasn't it? It's still Lego, but the structure is still there, the laws are still there, but what has seemingly emerged out of that is a duck. At least that's what we see. What about this? More complex. It's even more duck-like now, isn't it? Much harder to think of this as being anything else other than a duck, even though it's still Lego. Or it could be arranged in a different way. So same rules apply, same law, same Lego, but now we have a house. And so there are properties of the house which are still separate from the properties of the Lego. And perhaps we can take that even further. More complex, more remarkable, the things that come out of this, but still the same simple laws at play. Or even this. Amazing, right? This is called emergence. How things can seemingly emerge out of very simple things. Now, this example of Lego is an example of what we call weak emergence, meaning we wouldn't actually predict by looking at that single piece of Lego that you could create a whole city out of it. But when we look at that city backwards, we can see the laws apply and we understand how that happens. But if we're talking about weak emergence, what does that imply? It implies there must be another form of emergence, right? Something that they call strong emergence. And strong emergence doesn't behave in the right sort of way. There's nothing that can seemingly explain how these things emerged. People who think about this stuff, they say there's only 3 examples of strong emergence. The first one is that the universe appears out of nothing. There is nothing about nothingness that tells you something will come out of it. In the same sort of way, there's nothing about the universe that tells you it came from nothing. We can't try and make that work. The next form of strong emergence is how out of non-life does life emerge. The atoms in me are no different to the atoms in the chair that you're on or anything else. But there's something about the way it's arranged which gives rise to life. And we don't understand that. And the last form of strong emergence is how out of biology consciousness arises. In 1637, a guy called René Descartes wrote one of the most famous aphorisms of all time. Can someone tell me what that was?
I don't know in English, but...
Yeah, cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. And he got there by a process of doubt. He sort of said, well, who's to say there's not some sort of demon who's putting this whole thing that I'm experiencing in front of me? It's all a lie. So I can't trust that anything actually is real. I'm going to doubt it all. So he said, well, actually, if I'm doubting everything, how do I know that the demon isn't actually making me think that I'm real? And so stepping back, he sort of thought, oh my God, maybe I am just a figment of this demon's imagination. I start to doubt myself. But what did he notice? He noticed in having that moment of doubt about his own existence, what did he prove? He proved that he actually exists. And I do wonder about these sorts of things, that our minds can go to this point. There's nothing about the biology of a human that will tell you that Descartes can have that thought. And there's something about the emergence of these things which is amazing. Like there are different laws that seem to behave in living things that don't apply to the physical world. For instance, the chair, we have this argument in a taxi before, but the chair just there can't spontaneously reproduce itself. It can't heal itself when we break it. Life seems to have rules around it that allows that to happen. Similarly, the chair, or actually, let's go with the chair still. The chair can't have a creative thought, and yet the mind has rules about it that allows those things to happen. So there is this escalating emergence as we go up here. But the great thing about the mind is what? The mind can have an impact on the physical world. So I can decide to move my arm, and in doing so, I impact my biology, but I also have moved the atoms of the universe, haven't I? Through my thought. Remarkable. So where does chiropractic fit in all of this? Well, it's all fascinating. Well, perhaps it's fascinating. I think it's fascinating. But where's chiropractic in all of this? I think that's worth thinking about. So if we go back to this idea here, which of these realms of the universe, biology and mind does chiropractic work? It's in biology, isn't it? Because don't we deal with living things? And more specifically, we don't deal with all living things, do we? Like who looks after trees as a chiropractor? Or who looks after slimes or bacteria? Like we're quite precise. We work with things with nervous systems and spines. So a certain element is where we do our work. We work within the biology and therefore the laws of biology apply to what we do. So the question I ask you is, with the adjustment and these amazing health outcomes we see, is that a weakly emergent thing or is that a strongly emergent thing? What do you think? Are the amazing changes we see in someone, are they explainable by biological laws? I think they are. So as remarkable as the changes we see in people, that really is an example of weak emergence. So what that means is that chiropractic has a weakly emergent impact on biology. Making sense? I hope. And I think that's remarkable. We can't know what's going to happen, but when we see it happen, it makes sense. Yeah? Okay. So the next question I have for you is, well, what's the strongly emergent impact of chiropractic? And if you think that through, and we think about again those 3 examples of strong emergence in the universe, the answer's there. Because surely, and there's no surprises here, surely the strongly emergent impact of chiropractic is on the mind, isn't it? So whilst people's health improves with chiropractic, don't they start making better decisions? Aren't their relationships better? Don't they start having focus and have purpose in their lives? That is not a biological impact, is it? That's at a higher level. That's at a strongly emergent level. And to me, that's chiropractic. That's the philosophy of chiropractic. That's chiropractic and philosophy as a verb, not a noun. So going back to this idea of Descartes, right? Who's to say then, if I'm the only thing that I know is real, what's to stop me being the universe? What's to stop me being in complete control at one with all of this? That's not to invoke a deity in any way. It's about understanding my part, understanding who I am and my impact on the world. So the question is then, what is it that really gives rise to complexity? And if we go back to cultural wisdom and these aphorisms, then surely if the universe is intelligent, there must be some sort of intelligent reason as to why there's complexity, right? And I think this is the answer. The universe is driven to be complex because of the intelligence. And in fact, the complexity of the universe is why it's intelligent. It's why it's intelligent. And the great thing about it is that the reason we are here today, yes, it's because someone's decided to put on an amazing event, but we are here because the universe demands it of us. Who's having thoughts today that they haven't had before? That thought has never occurred in the 14 billion years the universe has been around. It has never occurred before. The complexity of us being together gives rise to creativity. It gives rise to more complexity. It gives rise to new thoughts, novel experiences that the universe has never had in 14 billion years of existence. And it might be, who's met someone today they've never met before? So think of the connection and the culture you have just created that has never existed previously. That's remarkable. That is you being part of the universe's demand to be more complex, to be more intelligent. Now, it might be tonight as we celebrate, maybe you'll fall in love with someone who you've never met before. And maybe in your drunken stupor, you'll wander upstairs and you'll crash into that person's room. And when you wake in the morning, unbeknownst to either of you, you have been extremely creative. And 10 months later on, there's a brand new being in the world who's going to have their own experience, their own thoughts, extending their creativity and the complexity of the universe, right? This is how the universe functions. This is us experiencing the universal intelligence right now. Right now. That's what drives us to come together. That's what drives us to have a culture. It's what drives us to be chiropractors. So I have no doubt whatsoever, that whatever our souls are made of, and when I say our, I mean mine and yours, I have no doubt that because you're here, that our souls are made of the same stuff. Thank you.